Welcome to the Recruitment Founders Podcast, the place to kickstart your journey to running a successful recruitment business. In each episode, you'll get knowledge, tips, and real-life stories to help you take your business from startup to whatever you want it to be. At Recruitment Founders Club, we'll show you how to follow a proven path to success, tap into a network of top-notch mentors, and join a community that thrives on collaboration and shared wins. You run the business, and we make sure you succeed.
So, episode 10.
Yeah.
For double digits, mate.
Yeah.
From humble beginnings to
cruising now.
Well, mate, yeah, flying, mate. Absolutely flying.
Absolutely flying.
How's the podcast sort of world been for you? Interestingly, before we get into today's episode.
Enjoying it, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Feels good. We're getting some good feedback. We're getting some good. We're getting quite a few hits.
Yeah.
Certainly on the shorter clips that are going out there. I think we've had a lot of views.
Yeah. I think for me, it's surprising how comfortable we've been with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think you know, every time we brought a guest in, they talk about being nervous, and within a minute, they've chilled out.
Yeah.
And I was certainly really help about.
Yeah, but I think.
But I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, me too. But we're talking about subjects that we're just really comfortable with.
Yeah. Yeah. And with people that we're really comfortable around.
Yeah.
And without further ado, we've got another guest today.
Another founder.
James Davies.
How are we doing?
Welcome, James.
Thank you.
Welcome to the
Thank
pod.
you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks for coming.
And investing in me, obviously.
Yeah, nearly crashed into my car on the way, didn't you?
I did, yeah. For fairness, though, like my Alpha's not designed for snow, and I didn't expect it not to stop. But yeah, it was a closer one.
Got here safe and sound, though.
Yeah.
Thanks for making the trip up.
Yeah.
Yeah, appreciate that because you've put a bit of a drive in today, haven't you?
Sure, it wasn't actually that bad, but I think as soon as you get off the major roads that aren't really gritted down the side street, like it was skidding everywhere. I was
we are a nation that just doesn't know how to handle a bit of snow and ice. And you know, our previous guest John was talking about how he moved to Chicago for a period. And it was like minus 17.
Yeah, it's mad.
You know, we've got a nation that falls over at -1, -2, but. Here we are. So, James, obviously great having you on. And, you know, for those of you, for those listeners out there that don't know you, we obviously know you. You know, just want to introduce a little bit about sort of your business and what you do. And you've obviously already disclosed you are you're part of RSC's community and whatnot, but it would just be good to understand a little bit about, you know, your current business and whatnot.
Yeah, so founded Embedded Electronic Solutions a little over a year ago.
1 year.
Yeah, got it through.
Past that milestone.
I know,
so you're not that stat, are you? That stat where everybody
I know.
bangs on about businesses failing in year one.
It was a crazy learning curve as well. And I thought, in my mind, it would, especially near the start when I was doing some coaching sessions, again through RSC with Toya, who used to work at the same company as us lot. I had all these ideas in my mind, and I was like, you know, when I do this, I'll feel like that, and it's like all a fallacy. Still a massive learning curve. Totally different to working for a business, even a small business. Okay. You know, so when you're sort of solopreneur or whatever, you know, I think it takes a bit of time. If you've always been an employee, it takes a bit of time to realise that you're actually the boss then, and no, you're not really answering. I remember when I first set up, and I was like, I'm not ringing you guys for. But almost sort of like, oh no, I am working today, and you're like, well, it's nothing to do with it. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like so giving yourself that permission, and so even those little things you don't really think of. When
I remember when you took your first day off or something, and you were like really giving yourself an hard time about it, weren't you?
Yeah. Now I've had basically 3 months off now. Yeah. You know, probably a bit too long. Do we look at the camera? I've not done this before. Like, pretend it's not there then. You know. Took a bit longer off now than I probably should have, but obviously it's a new year, new start. Yeah. You know, and various different things going on in the personal life. But going back to the business side, a little over a year, I think changed my original plan of what I was going to do with the company quite quickly. Yeah. You know, so maybe a warning to any potential founders, you know, if you're going to name your business exactly what you plan to recruit in, and then you end up recruiting in something slightly different. Maybe a bit of a challenge there, you know, but not a major one.
Yeah.
Interesting. And so, you know, in terms of the background in, you know, recruitment and other industries, so I think you've got an interesting sort of story pre recruitment? Do you want to share that with the
probably
the
a bit different to most recruiters, I would say, that were sort of some form of sales. I worked as an electronics technician for many years, and then as an engineer for Ericsson, and then on the national infrastructure network like Advanced Climber, and doing all the install for like microwave and telecom and you know, those sorts of systems.
And I remember when Bristol hired you.
Yeah.
Because I can't remember if I was part of Bristol at the time. I think I was managing the perm team, or I was involved in it somehow.
I was a lowly associate. You were many levels.
But I remember when you were hired, because it was a bit of a big deal. It was like, oh, we're hiring an engineer. Because you're right, the S3 model was, they didn't take anybody with recruitment experience, but like you quite rightly said, they'd want like, I don't know, a year or two telesales or door knocking, or
insurance sector,
just anything, or estate agency, you know, something like that. And you broke that mold for that office where it was like, we're bringing somebody in who's actually got experience of the market that we're gonna.
I didn't know that at the time. You know, I had no idea of that at the time.
But was it purposeful, you getting into recruitment?
It was really purposeful, and actually, I think
we've joked about, haven't we, that like 99% of recruiters fell into it.
It was purposeful for me. I think there's a few things. I think there was an underlying want to sort of get involved in the wider engineering sector. You know, there was that, but you know, predominantly, I think there was other drivers there as well. You know, house, car, motorbikes, toys, material stuff. Which, again, you know, when you start attaining that, you might realise actually you're not driven by it as much as you thought, you know. But those were the sort of initial drivers behind it. So when I actually started applying, you know, I think I rang a couple of different, I can't even remember I'm sure one of them was, I can't remember. I remember chasing a couple of them down really hard, and I thought, I'm chasing you really hard here. Like, you must realise, like, I want to do this. And then I remember lying in my interview with S3 when they were like, you know, have you applied to any other recruitment agency? I was like, no.
Are you bullshit?
I was like, you're the only ones. You know, they were the only ones that actually met me face to face. But I knew if I could get in face to face with really any company, to be honest, I'd sort of back myself. And then when they offered me a job, and they offered me like an entry level job, I didn't realise what a pay cut I was going to have to take. And it was like,
was it 18 grand?
I think it was 20. It was like 20.
Oh, it would have been more than that.
21,
yeah, 21
like
and a half, 20 and a half. Yeah,
books, mate.
Yeah, and I remember telling my other half, and you know, we didn't earn loads of money then anyway. You know, I worked in field operations, so we didn't really. She was at an earlier stage in her career. This is like 12 years ago now. But I remember sort of saying, I'm going to have to like half my salary here, and maybe work different hours and stuff like that. And she was like, really want to do this? And I was like, it's a good option. I think I knew a guy who'd set up a company. I haven't spoken to him in years now, and I saw the sort of success that he'd had, and I thought, I want a bit of that. I think I can do that job. You know, some people might look at success with jealousy, and you know, they see, you know, items, but I think actually the ones who really want it, they go, no, actually I want that. I'm going to see how. You don't need to. You can just copy what other people do. You know, like to get those, you want those results, you just do the same thing others do, you know, and it's the same when you actually start in the sector. You don't have to learn everything for yourself. You just copy what the best people are doing.
Especially in those days when everyone's back in the office and you're sitting on a desk in a successful team at the time, I think they were, and you've got big billers around you, haven't you? People
I would have crashed and burned working remotely at the start. You know, I find it really tough now. I've been working remotely like 4 and 5 years now, something like that, you know, and it is a slog sometimes, but that first year being in the office around good people,
invaluable, isn't it? To your point,
you at the time anyway.
Yeah.
You know?
You listen to people on the phone, don't you? Go, I like that. I'll use that. I won't use that. And then you build your pitch off people around you, don't you?
They're talking about that, not just in recruitment. They're talking about that in other industries as well, where the little kitchen conversations and the chat next to the kettle and all of that.
Yeah.
These younger professionals now that are entering industry from apprenticeships, universities, whatever their entry in to a more corporate world is that they're missing out on a lot of those moments of mentorship, allyship. They're missing out on opportunities to build relationships with people that can help them further their career. You know, whereas you look back at the world we were, sort of the fire we were forged in, you know, that was a massive part of
It was, and I speak to given what sector I cover now in quantum technologies, I don't speak to people perhaps in their really formative years, but they're perhaps still at a very early stage in their career, maybe not in their own minds because they might be a PhD qualified or whatever it might be, but actually especially in more so software for sure, they kind of start conversations off with I'd be working remotely, and it's kind of like, I do that, why do you want to do it? And I think it's going to be an issue for a lot of people. I think they'll realise, they tie themselves into a way of working, and they're just going to either through not being surrounded by the best people and using a bit of AI here, there, and everywhere. There's going to be a real dumbing down of what they would have actually maybe been able to achieve.
Yeah.
Without getting too philosophical on it, I think.
You started as trainee like everybody did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Trainee recruiter.
Oh, cringe.
You want that? You want to lose that trainee badge, don't you, as soon as possible?
So much when they stick you, because I was probably 10 years older than everyone else in the room, and they're making you run sort of fake phone call exercises, and I'm not an ego thing there, but when you're role playing with someone who's like 21, 22, whatever it might have been, and like you're at different stage, like it's just always a little bit awkward. When
you started?
It's been in recruitment 8 years, so I would have been just 30, I think.
Okay, that's quite old getting in there. I was 28 and I was old in my office. My boss was 24. And he was business manager, so he'd already been promoted.
This is the thing. We had
6 or 7 times.
There was a couple of people in there. Are we allowed to say people's names on it? There's no point. There was a couple of people in the office, and they were pretty much the same age as me, and they were like director level, all right. And I was like, "Oh, guys, I'm the new associate." See that episode of Friends where Chandler's changing jobs?
Yeah,
and he goes in there, and he's it's a bit like that for me.
Yeah, but you can move quickly through the ranks, though. That's the other side to it, isn't it?
You can. I think my first year, I think 6 months, I probably did what everyone else did and thought, what have I done? This is horrendous. I don't know if I can do this. But, if you're disciplined and you keep plugging away, enough people just go, well, actually, look.
Yeah, you've just got to get past that.
They're all the same. If you do X amount of billings in your first few months, it's probably just luck.
100%,
so with the right training and the right people around you, generally, as long as you can stick it out, you'll do quite well.
And most don't, right? Most quit within 6 months. I think the churn was what, 50-60%, something like that.
50 over 12
just production
months,
lines.
just gone, just straight through.
And did you two know each other during that sort of S3 period?
I think for the first 6 months, I don't remember anything of Jocks. I remember coming towards the end of my first year, I was trying to sort of break out a little bit of my team or the dynamics of what was going on, try and think a little bit bigger. And that put me in, Jocks is, I think someone mentioned, are we calling you Jocks or Lindsay on this?
Jocks. I think we'll probably have to reference him. The last pod John was like Jocks this, Jocks that. I think we'll probably have to like put a header on the YouTube video or something.
Everyone was like, you should speak to, maybe speak to Lindsay or whatever. And then I think I was trying to do some like different pitches and bigger pitches, and then Lindsay was like really helpful about like, well, just go for this, or just try that, or just go and do this. And I was like, can I meet some clients in London? Can you help me out with that? And he was like, come down. And I think that was the first time we met. You came down to... First time we'd met, probably out of the Bristol office, was London. You gave me help with the pitch for a South Korean engineering company. We're building like the Silverlight Tunnel under London. And looking back on it, like I'd avoid that like the plague now.
Was he in a three-piece suit, big fat knot?
I think he had no socks on with his suit, maybe. Or maybe
no, there's no chance that happened.
That's
no,
gone.
I'm cutting that out right now. I wore socks.
I've got a feeling. I think actually what it was.
We're starting this episode again. No, it's a Bristol thing.
It is a Bristol thing.
No, I think
what's that all about? Came in and I think actually what happened, they came in and dug me out. They came and dug me out and said, "Have you got socks on with your suit?" And I was like, "Yeah." I think that's what happened. I'm trying to remember his name now.
My ex-business partner was from Bristol. He was a no socks for a while.
Yeah, they love it.
It's funny because Bristol's no socks, and then London is red socks.
Right,
what is that all about? Do you know what I mean? Blue suit, red socks. But anyway,
the no sock
we could do an episode on that. But
yeah.
Yeah, so I was just interested if he got the big fat wins.
I don't think so. No, I think it was.
Was it a bit more chilled then? I
think it was. Yeah. We were. This was just pre-COVID. It's like November 20. When was?
Oh yeah,
so I think it was like November 2019. Yeah,
smart
it was.
Cash,
yeah. Because I remember before I started,
whatever that means.
My 2B boss said, "Oh, it's smart casual dress wear in the office." I was like, "I'm going to wear a suit," and I turned up in like this really poorly fitted, because I'd been working outdoors for like the last 10 years. Like going into an office was like even that was totally new for me. Basically. I think I just didn't think about what a nice suit would be like, and I think I just bought some suits online. I thought, I'm taking 50% pay cut here right now. Like I can't be splashing loads of cash on nice suits. I bought some, and I remember I turned up and everyone's in like jeans and t-shirt, and I had like this grey suit on with like a blue tie, like it was just all mismatched. You know what I mean? Like, and I remember turning up and they were like, "Right, we're going to do a photo in front of this." And I remember I used that as my first LinkedIn photo. I wish I still had it, because looking back on it, I think I see one now and again who's just started in the sector. Like they might pop up in my feed, and I think, I need to check myself when I cringe at them. I go, "That was you 10 years ago, mate." You know, give them a bit of space. But yeah.
So in terms of sort of how your journey's evolved, then, so you sort of joined S3. How long were you with S3?
Yeah, so I think let's say 3.5 years. I think it was like 3, 4, 3, 7 months, something like that. So 3.5 years. So in that time, I think it took me 6 months to do a deal. Yeah. And then I think my first one was like 16 or 18,000, which was quite good for like UK based engineering roles. It's actually that was a good fee.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so that kind of gave me a bit of confidence, and then I think I went back to back then for like the next 5-6 months, and I think I finished my first year on like, someone might from SU might be able to check this up for me, but I think it was about like 80 or 120, something in that range, something like that. Not astronomical. It might be in
but from a standing start, from not doing a deal 0 to 6, so that was your 6 to 12 billion figures.
That's right. Yeah,
so you're pro-rating $250,000.
Yeah, exactly. So I think they then, you know, finally got rid of that after taking 6 months to do a deal. I then did enough to lose that sort of very base level, bottom of the barrel job title. Yeah. You know, pretty quickly after, within a couple of months, and then we went into COVID lockdown, I think, in March, but I'd already done a couple of deals. So I did a couple of deals, then went on holiday to Thailand for 3 weeks, came back. I was back like 2 weeks, think I'd done another deal. I was like, everything was great. And everyone was like, lockdown might be happening. Yeah. And I remember saying to Dritch, do you mind if I just take some kit with me tonight? Because my other half's, you know, our offices are in London, and they're being told to take their equipment home, I think. And then it was that night we got a message out, and they were like, right, everyone's, no one's allowed in the office now. And then I spent the next 6 to 9 months of my recruitment career. At the time, we lived in a flat. Like, we had no money, really.
You get furloughed?
We could go on holiday and stuff. No.
Didn't get furloughed?
No. And I actually managed to, don't ask me how. I remember some of the phone calls I was making, looking back, and it was just cringy. Like, can you imagine ringing up, like, someone rang me up now, and I ran a bigger company than I currently do, talking about, I was like, 2 weeks into this random lockdown, what are you on about?
You got any jobs? No, but nobody knew how to, like, how to behave,
what to do. No, but I think I managed to find, you know, as people do, you know, I think either you sink or swim, and I think I managed to, I had to think about what sectors within engineering were in my patch, you know, which was like Thames Valley, you know, that probably would be a bit immune to it, and I managed to find a few sort of niche areas within sort of like nuclear energy and remote handling systems and stuff like that, and managed to, you know, start getting some deals in. And then I managed, before I knew it, within 6 months, I'd done like 150 grand, got promoted to senior, and then off the back of that, up to principal the following year.
Nice. That's good going. Was it 3 years, 3.5 years? Principal in that time.
It was like just over 3 years, I think.
Really good going up.
Yeah. I left because there was
a couple of the lads in Bristol set up, didn't they? And then
they did, but I didn't leave because they'd set up. Even though they'd set up, and one of them's from Bristol, one of them's from Manchester. Both, you know, excellent recruiters. You could learn a lot from, you know, and really just sound guys, really break the mold of what you'd expect from recruiters. You know, they're just decent people. I think I left for, you know, there was some promotional criteria that perhaps got deleted off the system that was there the day before, but they couldn't honour.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
And then I didn't want to sign the new one that they'd put onto the system for a little while, and then I thought, do you know what, I will. Then didn't do anything for 3 months. Was told if I don't, then you got to look for another job. So I was like, all right, I'll show you what I can do. And then I put 120 grand then, like just 80 to 100. It's a few years ago now. It's like 4 or 5 years ago. So put in a decent performance. They promoted me to principal, and I was like, right, I'm going. And went to go and work. I was the first foundational hire then for a company that was founded by 2 very successful contract billers at S3. One of which was Alex was probably top at S3 for
Alex
years
and
before
Phil,
I started. Yeah, he was really good, and Phil was
good lads.
I don't know where Phil used to rank on contracts.
No, he's one of the top billers out of Manchester.
But again, it doesn't surprise me. People used to call him Phil the Phil. He's probably one of those guys. It doesn't really matter what requirement you sit in front of him. He'll kind of just go.
He'll just deliver it.
Yeah, 2-minute phone call with him, send him what he thinks is right, and most of the time it's pretty close, or he can at least talk to him about why. And that's good for some customers. I think that's what some customers actually want.
Yeah. And moving sort of into, you're now that's your base layer in recruitment. Did you always dream or envisage owning your own and running your own recruitment business?
No, I think I wanted to progress in a corporate. Probably, I think my idea was different to what I'd seen this guy I knew do, who set up a little company. I sort of thought, if I work in a corporate, you can progress, you can get off the tools. And I think I wouldn't say bolshy, but probably naive when I first started. Maybe missed that sort of real heyday of recruitment anyway. Okay. But my idea was that I would effectively do well, grow a little bit of a team, get off the tools as quickly as possible, and move as far away from the day-to-day as possible, and earn a good wage. That was the idea. But make plan. What's that saying about when you make plans and God laughs or whatever? I'm not a particularly religious person, but it's true. I couldn't be more on the tools now. The way I've set my life up in the business. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that was the original idea anyway. And I think even when I moved over to be the first hire for this other company, again, I think it was do some billings, make sure they're happy, give them the freedom to step up into their role, and give them freedom to do whatever they need to do. Yeah, and again, get off the tools. For various reasons, that wasn't going to happen. Yeah, okay.
But it's interesting though. I think coming from the background we would come from, getting off the tools was like massive badge of honour, wasn't it? Badge of honour, yeah. And it's interesting because I've never achieved it. I've talked about this. Like sometimes when I have a bit of a a bit of a wobble. Yeah, I mean, I'm 19 years in recruitment. I've previously been an MD of a multi-million-pound business.
Got your hammer and chisel out for 19.
And I was still billing. And some people, I sort of talk about the whole scale and fail we did, right? Probably that's why we didn't scale it even further, because the MD was still billing, right? But I never quite achieved that, get off the tools badge. It's one of the badges I never quite got, but it was interesting how that was sold as this dream. But I actually think in the world we're now in, everything I'm hearing, and I'm I don't get every nugget of every business, but from what I'm hearing, it's that off the tools layer of management that is disappearing now, and they're all being put under pressure to come back into billing,
start contributing with revenue.
And we've talked about how, I think, what was it, 12, 13 years it had been since you did a deal when you launched your own business. I think there's going to be a lot of people listening to this pod that are, been off the tools for a while, who are now being asked to go back on the tools. Yeah. They're probably going to look at this and think, well, why would I go back on the tools now for somebody else. It's interesting. That's the type of inquiries we've been
They
getting.
might not have a choice. You know, I think the model of like the big corporates where, you know, they may be accountable to shareholders, whatever it might be, you know, it shouldn't cost £10,000 per head for a £25,000 employee. It shouldn't cost that. That seat to hire shouldn't cost that because of all the additional layers of management, and that's why those companies will die out. There's not enough. There's not enough blubber left in what they're making to feed, you know, the rest of that animal anymore.
It's
all
all those layers that just, they have
absolutely.
to disappear, don't they? Because those non-contributing, like indirect, you know, they're costing that company a wedge as well.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing about it, and you're right, everybody wants that badge of honour. You want to do enough as a senior consultant or a principal consultant to start hiring people and get off those tools. The funny thing is that, you know, I was off the tools for a long time, but probably, I don't know, I coasted so much toward the end of S3. Maybe 7-8 years where I actually fell out of love with recruitment because I was so far away from that front line.
Because you lost touch with recruitment. You were just a manager of, it could have been any type of business.
You're just dealing with all the shit and you're getting wheeled in when there's a problem and it's just issue,
hard personalities to manage as well.
Sorry?
Hard personalities to manage.
With
You're
really
just
tough,
counselling people. You're a policeman, you're a mom, you're a dad, you're everything. You're a doctor, counsellor.
Yeah.
And so with that, for me personally, that was one of the wonderful things. I know you've never achieved it, and I'm sure you would like to experience it at some point. But it was wonderful for me actually going back on the tools because even though I was a bit scared of it, it just made me fall in love with the industry again.
Yeah.
You are one of the most passionate people about it as well, for sure.
What about recruitment generally?
Yeah, for sure. I never ring you up and you're like, I just hate this job right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't think I've ever heard you say that. You know,
can't say that for me.
Or me, you know what I mean?
Me and James just have the odd phone call. Shit, innit?
I've got to speak to one.
Got anything positive to say, James? No, great. That's why I've called you. I just wanted to have a neg out for 5 minutes, but no. You are that.
I've got an unhealthy positive outlook.
Yeah, it'll be all
right. That's why you get on so well with the Americans, isn't it? I reckon. Like,
maybe, it could be that. Yeah. Hey man, everything's
they're like, great. Everything's amazing. I'm just
and I'm like,
it down a little bit, will you?
Let's go.
That's how most of our morning phone calls go. He'll go, all right, kid, I'm absolutely fucking phenomenal today. And I'm like, mate, I've had one cup of tea. I've just got 3 kids to school and you're phenomenal. But anyway, back to James. So tell us, you started your business then.
Well, what was the trigger for it?
I think it was a bit of a tricky separation from the company I was working for in terms of I thought I'd been clear with what I wanted, let it sit, and it obviously then wasn't going to materialise in the way I probably should have just spoken up a bit sooner. And I sort of thought, I don't want to be here now, but I also, there was no way I was going to go and work for another big company. I just didn't. I'd been doing it too long. And I was really thinking about it. I was just sort of like, there is no reason I cannot do this job for myself. My ideal scenario would have been to have founded the company with someone that I knew really closely, you know, but there was only probably one person that I knew and they had no interest in doing that. You know, they just got no desire. They're, you know, very risk averse family man, you know, company guy. I mean, that's just his, and he's really open about that as well. I won't say his name, even though I'm sure he wouldn't mind me. You know, but and then I was sort of thinking, I don't want to do another 6 months of being unhappy either, and put more money aside. And then I was thinking about, you know, the logistics of support, both financially, but also like if I don't have someone else to lean on, how am I going to fix that issue? Because that's often a harder one. You know, I can probably borrow money for a start, but it doesn't answer a lot of the other questions. And I've been seeing posts from Jocks, Lindsay.
Jocks is fine.
I'm going to be switching between the both.
I'll call him Jocks on this podcast.
For like a year. And I think I remember when I rang you, I was like, in the back of my mind, I was like, do you have to be based in Birmingham? For some reason was in my head as well. I was like, do you need to be based in Birmingham? Like, I don't know why. Like, do you have to, not that you've got to be a Bromley or anything, but like, just.
You've got to live on Walsall Road.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be nice one day to get Birmingham fan, wouldn't it? But no.
It's a nice road, by the way. I remember when you guys were saying it when we were having pizza a while ago last Christmas, and you're like, oh, it's a nice road. Oh, yeah, it's quite a nice road, actually. Where were we? Just,
So you'd
seen some of my posts.
Yeah, we'll have to cut that bit. Losing train of thought. So
what was it? Post from what? Hannison Green talking about? Like,
no, I think if I'm honest, I can't. I think it was the foundations of RFC.
Okay,
you weren't even really talking about. I think because I was employed at the time, and I wasn't really thinking about leaving, but it was obviously in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
It nestled somewhere, and it came to the forefront. And then I was scrolling, I saw it again. I was like, "John, spoken to Lindsay for a couple of years. Like, I'm just going to give him a call." And I think I just gave you a call. And I don't know if you remember. We probably chat for half hour, 40 minutes. Laid out the situation. Look,
you just rang me out the blue, didn't you? And you came up on my phone. I still had your number.
I'm a recruiter. I'm not gonna text you. Can I give you a call? I'm just gonna be like,
James Davies actually came up. I'm like, oh, I'm interested.
So and I remember just giving you a call and saying, look, this is sort of where it is, and I'm a bit uncertain about this, and this, and I think you were just, metaphorical arm around the shoulder, like, mate, you can do that. Like, you've already done it. What's the absolute worst that could happen? Think about the very worst thing that could happen, and it ain't that bad. And I was like, oh yeah, I probably should do that. Perhaps didn't have an easier job. I wasn't quite as articulate telling my partner I was quitting my job, because I was earning 6 figures in a job with benefits, even though it was a small company. So telling my other half, probably going to be taking a pay cut for a year or two, and maybe building up, if we still want to go on, nice holidays and eat out and, weekends away, then I'm probably going to bang the credit card a little bit as well. So discussing those things with her, I probably wasn't as articulate as I could have been, but, that's something people should probably prepare for as well before they, especially if they're in a long-term relationship, they should probably prepare, how they're going to fray, the groundwork of how they're going to get their family
just
on
jump
board.
Straight in. Right,
because you need that support network around you. If they're not on board and you're 3 months in and that it's not working for you and you're really struggling and you can't unload somewhere, it's going to be a problem. Like that's going to be a problem.
Agreed, yeah.
But I'm glad I did it. It's been ups and downs, but the reality is, I've had health issues going on the last few months. I've been able to take a few months off. There is no recruitment is sales in some sectors. I think it's less sales in others. There's a genuine need for a consultant in some sectors, especially the one that I now facilitate, I think, and although there is an element of sales to what I do, I think lost train of thought again. I have to reset on that one.
Well, look, your journey. So you're 12 months in now, okay, and your journey has been what I would say is a typical entrepreneurial journey for somebody leaving employment and setting up their own business. You mentioned the highs and lows that you've been through, and we've been there with you on those highs and lows. And there has been some real lows, hasn't there? And there's been some great highs.
Yeah.
And a big part of being an entrepreneur is being able to kind of try and find a way to level out amidst that, because emotion can take over, can't it?
It really can. And I think it was like I remember I was probably a month in, and I'd done all the tire kicking of setting up whatever I could, and I was probably maybe putting off doing some of the stuff that I should have been doing from day one, probably through fear, of trying to do things perfectly. Because for the first time, it was like, oh, it's not the company, it's me.
Yeah.
Like it's now landing on me. That's my image. That's if I do that wrong, that's coming back on me. But like you can't brush it off. So I suppose, working through that initially, and then I think it was almost like 4 or 5 months in, and I was like, right, I need to focus in on something, more niche. And I was starting to think it was almost like I'd started from day one in my career again. Like, I'm either going to do a deal again. What am I doing? We actually had that conversation.
Yeah,
and I remember even some of the follow-up stuff that I'd been sending out to clients was just wrong. And I remember me and Greg had a chat, and he was like, mate, this is what you're sending out there is wrong. And I was like, it is wrong. Why have I been doing that? Like, it's not like I didn't know, but that again comes down to that sort of perhaps having the right people around you and the support network and those sorts of things, for sure. But those lows become really low, when you're the company owner.
Yeah, because you genuinely believed you were never going to do a deal again. We had that, and I know I remind you of this quite a lot.
We were on a 3-way Teams call, and he actually said,
"You just said I can't see myself doing a deal again." You were convinced that was it. I'm done because I don't know how many months in you couldn't see it. Could
must have been 4. I think I was
we were
3.5,
4 months in.
Yeah. And I think what had happened was I didn't want to step on any non-compete that I had, even though I could have probably quite easily. I was trying to be, despite what they might have thought, I was probably trying to be more respectful than they believed. So I was trying to do things a different way, and then I sort of realised, actually, there's loads of other stuff I can do anyway. But yeah, those thoughts were real.
And one question I've never asked you, because it just doesn't come up, because it's just been, but what was it about RFC that you bought into?
In honesty, for me, it was Jocks, because I knew him and I'd seen him, and he was sort of someone that I'd asked when I worked at S3, around some different pitch proposals for something that the company hadn't done before, and I kind of asked him, and I trusted him. And I'd always seen he was really active on there, and I just thought, do you know what, I'm thinking of setting up a business that he's literally running something that helps do that. I was like, it'd be mental not to ring him. And I remember chatting to you thinking, well, yeah, no, I trust this guy. Do you know what I mean? Like, that was the big driver for me. And
then I introed you to, and you hit it off, didn't you? And
yeah, because I think there's, if you're going to set up a recruitment company, it is a bit of a sharky sector. There's plenty of big names and little names out there, and I'm not talking about James Carr and Alan Sugar, or even though they do invest in those sorts of things. I'm talking about the other companies, where you are tied into a lot for quite a little in the long run, because after that sort of initial setup period, the input financially tapers off a lot, and at that point, they're
what are you left with?
Yeah, they're recouping costs for a long time, and it's something that some of those that you might speak to, they might have different packages of what they're going to set you up with because they have an economy of scale or whatever, but actually what you're tied into financially is not favourable, should we say? In some instances, I think there was one company, they were offering to pay your salary for a year, but you're effectively giving them 50% of everything, so you're trading off. And I didn't go into depth on the contract side, but I remember I would have effectively been trading off an 80k salary for year one plus tooling for what is probably going to be £1 million.
Sad thing about a lot of those models is they're designed for you to never pay your debt off.
Yeah.
So you're always on a salary.
Yeah. So there's those elements, and effectively what they're doing there is they're looking to hire employees, that are the best recruiters who then just get tied into something.
Yeah.
That's the reality. So yeah, trust for me.
No, I think you've touched on something there. I mean, we've seen a lot of that in the market, and it's that wolf in sheep's clothing sort of thing. It's pitched as, you need this, it's a great idea, but actually we're going to give you some capital because you need it now. And what you don't realise is we're effectively going to own you forever, and that's something we're keen to steer away from.
Well, we know people stuck in those cycles.
Yeah, we do. That was obviously something we're keen to sort of compete against. But in bringing this sort of episode towards a close, James, you've been really good in terms of explaining your journey and clearly talking about some of the lows and the highs. But if you were to if you were to meet yourself in the month before setting up your business, what would be your sort of top 2 or 3 tips to give James on at the start of that journey?
Don't put anything off. It doesn't need to be perfect because it's now on you. I think it's a very personal statement. I think, I think a lot of the people, I'd like to think they want to do a really good job. Especially once you set up a company and it's going to be in their name.
Everything's got to be perfect.
You want it to. You're representing you are effectively the product in a way. You're offering the consultancy to these customers, and some of them are paying you a lot of money. You want to do an excellent job. That's down the line. You've actually got to get those on board first. So instead of trying to be perfect, just start. Really just get going. If you're at the point where you're having this conversation, there's people who are prepared to invest in you. You should remember you can back yourself at that point. You can obviously do this job. So just get on with it.
Yeah.
Keep your head down. And I'd say the other thing would be support network. Make sure there's people around you, especially if you're, home office like me, most of the time, if you've got a good support network of people that you can talk to, bounce off, those would be the main things. Try not to worry about the money too much every day. Chatting to you about it earlier the week, wasn't I?
Yeah.
All of a sudden you've got more money in your bank account than you've ever seen in your whole life, and then you take 3 months off and you're like, oh, I've just spent, like, where did I spend that 15, 20 grand on? Or 50 grand on it. Like, all of a sudden you're like, oh, where's all this money gone?
Yeah.
There's learns like that. So, be sensible. Listen to your accountant.
That's really, really useful, James. And look, I think I can talk on Jocks' behalf as well. It's been great working with you. You've been a brilliant founder to have part of RFC.
Thank you.
You've really lent into the community.
Yeah.
You've contributed a lot to that. Hopefully, it's given you a lot along the way as well. But we've learned from you as much as no doubt you've taken some learnings from ourselves and others. So thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That's been a pleasure, and it's been great. It's been great to follow your journey and be part of it. I just want to finish with one question, because we moved on from it a little bit, but I am going to bring it up again because I think it's important, and we've all been through it, and you've been through it as well, not that long ago. When you can't see a deal, when you were in that moment 4 or 5 months in, and it was, can't see myself doing a deal again. And then within a month or two of that, you're doing multiple deals on a monthly basis. Yeah. Just try and articulate that sort of experience and maybe just to learn from that. Because it's a big deal, isn't it? Because especially if you're going from being employed to being your own business and everything rests on you.
Yeah.
Because that's 2 very different mindsets, and it's a big transition, isn't it? How would you articulate what that sort of means and the experience?
It's difficult because a lot of people who might watch this from a recruitment background, there's thousands of people who work for us through. Some of them might even know me. I was probably that guy who was always like, it'll be all right. It'll be all right. Didn't matter. Like, I knew it would be all right, and then out of nowhere there'd be like 30 grand that month. So I just knew it'd be all right. So I think
because it will be all right.
Yeah, because it will be all right. So I think when you lose that, I'd probably just. It is tough, you have to have a support network there of people to lean on to go, I've done it before, just it'll be all right, because it will.
Yeah. So somebody to say to you exactly what you would say to
exactly.
We were talking about
it'll be all right, you just got the support there. And I think when you looking back on it now, I'd already met with 5 of the 8 biggest quantum technology companies in the world at that point. Even though I couldn't see a deal, things were starting to happen. Things probably still aren't even close to where I want them to be now. But, take a few months off. It is what it is, So it'll just be all right is what you're going to have to tell yourself. Like, it will be all right.
Yeah, what's the worst that's gone?
If I could chip in on that, just as we bring this episode to a close, back to the piece where I haven't been off the tools in my career, right? So this is 19 years experience of being on the tools. Recruitment's a cyclical gig, right? The best billers still ride that roller coaster of recruitment. They just minimise the peaks and the troughs. There's still a roller coaster, and I can't see it all the time when I'm in it. So I'm sort of saying this to myself. So I'll come back and watch the end of this episode. But it's like when you're in that place where you can't see the deal. Recruitment, at its very basic form, is a process.
Yeah.
Okay. And your point about it'll be all right, it will be all right because most of the good billers follow the process.
Yeah.
Right? When I've nearly got myself into a pickle, It's when I've stopped following the process. Because when you're not following the process and you're not doing any deals, right, it is a slightly more bleak outcome.
It is, yeah.
But recruitment is a process and it's a cyclical gig. So if you carry on following the process, at some point, the sun will come out and you'll have some crops. Yeah. You know, that is how I have sort of, you know, cognitively processed that. And certainly when we've had that chat, you know, and other founders, which you all go through it. And even if you've got a great business, you'll go through your peaks and your troughs. It's just about, okay, take it back to basics. Are we following the process? Because if we're following the process, it'll be all right.
Yeah. Also known as the recruitment life cycle, as S3 would teach it to probably all of us back in the day. Yeah. You know. Yeah.
But James, honestly, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you've been a great guest.
You've been a great guest, and there's a lot in there for our listeners about what the realities are of starting up their own business. And
can we tag Nike in this? Just do it. It'll be all right. Like, can we? How much will that cost?
I don't know whether we're big enough for them to listen yet, but we're also small enough for them to crush us with a copyright. But
Phil Knight on the face, excuse me.
Yeah, but thanks, James. Honestly, really appreciate it.
Yeah, been a pleasure, mate. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Recruitment Founders Podcast. Make sure you subscribe on your favourite podcast platform or YouTube so you never miss an episode. Connect with us on LinkedIn to join our community of founders and mentors, or visit our website to learn more about how we can help you launch, grow, and thrive in your recruitment business.